What's going on, my guys? Lost and Found Dating channel. Back at it again with another dating topic this week. And before we get into this week's video, I want you guys to click the subscribe button. That way you subscribe to the channel, you'll be in the know when we come out with new content. I want to thank you guys for the tremendous support thus far. All the new subscribers, everyone who's been liking the channel, everyone who's been leaving comments, everyone who's been following us on Instagram, on Twitter. Thank you guys for all the support. I'm looking forward to putting out some awesome content for you guys. That being said, let's have some fun. Let's get into this week's video. All right, guys, so we got a very special topic for this week's video, one that's very dear and close to my heart, one that I think is important to set the tone, set the precedence as far as your dating life. And for this week's topic, we're going to be talking about how to exchange numbers with a woman confidently. So in this week's topic, this week's video, I'm going to be talking about my personal strategy as far as when I meet a woman out in public, how I would go about exchanging numbers with her. And I want to emphasize that this is the strategy that I use. That's not to say that this is the only way to do it, that any other strategy out there is wrong. The most important thing, guys, is it's not about doing what I do or just doing and following the tips and the recommendations that I'm giving you. Many roads lead to Rome. You know, this is a strategy that I use, but it's important for you to use a strategy that works best for you, that fits your personality. It may be mine, maybe you use certain strategies from this video and you incorporate it with other videos that you watch. But for this video, I'm going to be going through my strategy and how I go about exchanging numbers with a woman who I've met in person. So let's dive in. So let's say we've been talking for a bit and we're having a great conversation and I'm getting ready to leave or she's getting ready to leave, and I decide that this is a woman I'm potentially looking to go on a date with, to get to know a little bit more, to converse with some more. I would then go about exchanging numbers with her. So I would say something along the lines of, hey, it was great chatting with you. Hey, it was great talking with you. I'd love to get together sometime, or we should get together sometime. And then I offer her my number. So I don't ask her, hey, what's your number? I tell her, hey, we should get together sometime. Can I give you my number? And now I'm gonna break down why I do that and my philosophy behind that approach. Now understand, guys, that for a certain period of time, instead of offering my number, I would routinely ask the woman for her number. So I would say, hey, we should get together sometime. Hey, it was great chatting with you. What's your number? And then I would ask her for her number, and that's how I would go about doing it. Now I've since transitioned, and instead of asking for her number, I would offer my number. Now, as far as offering her my number, it has nothing to do with me being afraid of rejection, or if I ask her for her number, she might say no, or me being lazy and I don't want to take down her number, so it's just easier to give her mine. It has nothing to do with that. The reason I do it is because I understand the era of, and when I say era, E-R-A, not error, I understand the era of dating and technology in which we live today. From what I've seen today, getting the woman's number is like getting her name. From my perspective, it means absolutely nothing as far as an indicator of her interest in you. And here's why I say that. My guess, and this is only a speculation, I don't have a time machine, so I can't prove this, but my guess is that 20, 25, 30 years ago, if you ask a woman for her number and she gave it to you, it meant a lot more. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is just with technology, most people didn't have cell phones back then, or they weren't the same kinds of cell phones as we have today. So when you asked a woman for her number, she was going to give you her house number, right? So you have a little bit more access to her because you would be calling her, you know, where she lives, where she stays. You know, if she gives you that number, you can call her at home and you'd be able to reach her whenever she's at home. Phones didn't have these different things like call screening and blocking calls and caller ID. So if someone called your phone, you had to answer. You couldn't say, oh, this is Joe that I met at the club. Nah, I'm gonna let the phone ring. No, if the phone rang, you didn't know who it was, so you would answer the phone. So if a woman gave you her number back then, I'm gonna assume that it meant a lot more, and women were a little bit more selective as far as whom they gave their numbers to back in the past, because it gave you a little bit more access to them than it does today. So I think, you know, being that women had to be a little bit more selective as far as the guys that they gave their numbers to, you could sort of put your hat on the fact that if she gave you her number, it's a little bit more stronger of an indicator of her level of interest, because, you know, that gave you a little bit more access to her than it does today. And even in pop culture, guys, if you look at music videos from the 90s or the early 2000s, that was like a big deal. You know, the guy going up to the woman and getting her number, it was like this big deal. It was a big event. You know, you'd see him walk over to her and he'd be talking with her, and all his guy friends would be cheering, clapping, yeah, man, yeah, you got this, woo, yeah. You know, they'd be cheering for him and clapping, and you know, it was a big deal if you got the woman's number back then, you know, back in the 90s or the early 2000s. It was this huge thing. It's like you got her number. That's a big deal, man. You should be pretty proud of yourself that you got her number, right? And she'd write it on a little crumply little piece of paper, and then he'd, you know, put it in his hand, and, you know, he'd walk back to his guy friends and he'd be holding it out like it's like a diploma, like all cheesing like this, holding out the little crinkly piece of paper. You know, like I said, they made a big deal, and it was an entire scene. Like if you watched a movie or a music video, you know, a lot of time was spent on, man, you won't get a number. I bet you can't get the number. Man, you ain't gonna get the number. Nowadays, that's not the case. Like I said, if a woman gives you her number, it's like she gave you her name, it's like she told you what her favorite color was. It's not as big of a deal today, you know, her giving you her number, as it was back then. Nowadays, guys, and you can even ask any woman between the ages of like 20 and 30 years old, you know, you can ask them this, and especially if she goes out a lot, if she goes to bars and clubs and lounges and things like that, ask a woman if she's ever just given a guy her number just to kind of shoo them off and get the guy out of their face. Most women have done that, and they'll tell you like, yeah, you know, I didn't feel like talking with him. I wanted him to walk away. I wanted him to leave me alone. So I just gave him my number so that he would kind of move on his way. And, you know, that's an effective strategy, because she can block texts, she can block calls, you can see who's calling your phone, you can look and say, oh, okay, it's Joe from the club, you know, I'm ignored, or I'm gonna block him. You can do those things, whereas back in the past, you couldn't do those things with your house phones. And some of you guys watching this video have probably experienced that, where you've been talking with a woman and you can tell she's not really that interested, she's not really that into you, but you just, whatever, I'll ask her for a number, and she gives you the number, and you're thinking to yourself like, it's probably a fake number, right? And you guys know, I know you guys have been there where you get the number and you're like, no, let me double check. Let me send her a text right now and make sure it's her, right? You're like, she gives you the number and you're like, hold on, 55572. All right, hold on, wait, hold on. Right, and you're trying to send her a text, or you're like, oh, hold on, let me call you right now just so you can take my number down. You know, you're like, man, she probably gave me a fake number, but you're like, I'm gonna stick around. I'm determined to make sure that she gave me the real number. Some of you guys know, and your behavior starts to change because you can tell this probably isn't her number. And then she'll be like, oh, my phone is off. Or, oh, I left my phone in the car. You don't leave your phone in the car. Oh, I left my phone in my purse. My purse is with my friend. The purse be sitting right there on her shoulder. You know, she didn't want to give you her number, so she gave you a fake number. Oh, my phone is off, whatever. Anyway, you guys know, and your behavior starts to change. So me, I started seeing what was going on just with technology and you know, women giving their number out when they weren't really interested in the guy. So since then, I kind of adapted my strategy and I just said, you know what, instead of asking her for her number, and it doesn't really tell me whether or not she's interested, I'm just going to offer her my number. That's gonna be my strategy moving forward. And my partner here just mentioned this and brought it up. They even had, I don't know if you guys remember this, they had the rejection hotline. So like she could give you the rejection hotline number and then you'd call it like, oh man, like you Mac Daddy. I'm about to ask her out on a date. We're about to go to the movies, get some popcorn, and then you call it and it'll be like, the person who gave you this number is rejecting you. Goodbye. You'd be like, dang, she did me dirty. So that number still probably exists, but see, you don't have to deal with that if you give her your number. So that's my approach. I give her my number. And my mindset, guys, is this. If I've gone up to her, I approached her, I initiated the conversation, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking her to then reciprocate by me giving her my number, than me asking her to text me. I'll say that again. If I've gone up to her, right, I approached her, I'm the one initiating the interaction. I'm the one saying, hey, it's great chatting with you. We should get together sometime. Here's my number. If I'm putting forth that effort and I'm showing my interest, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking the woman if she's interested in getting together or conversing more. I don't think there's anything wrong with asking her to reach out to you. You know, you've done a lot of the work on the front end. There's nothing wrong with asking her to reciprocate if she's interested in you, if she's been enjoying the conversation, to then text you and exchange numbers that way. And if there's one critique that I have of a lot of guys is you treat dating like it's a solo act. You put forth all the effort and you invest and you initiate and you pursue, but you don't create an environment or create a scenario where the woman can then reciprocate her interest and can show you that she's interested. I like to set that tone and do that from the jump. I'm gonna let you know, hey, I enjoyed the conversation. It would be great to get together with you. Here's my number, and my approach is really, hey, you know, here's my number. If you're interested, text me. And I really have a take it or leave it approach. Hey, if you're interested, you could text me. I don't say this out loud, but it's kind of, I'm gonna give you my number. If you wanna text me, great. If not, then, you know, no big deal. My mindset is, if I've made a good enough impression and if she wants to explore what chemistry is there or get to know me more, she'll text me. You know, it takes, what, 5-10 seconds to send a quick text and say, hey, this is Ashley, hey, this is Samantha. You know, if the guy can ask her for her number and text her, she can do the same thing and she can text you. You know, it's not that big of a deal. So wrapping things up, guys, that's my approach. That's why I prefer to give the woman my number. And the mindset is, hey, you know, I appreciated chatting with you. It was great getting to know you. We should get together sometime. Here's my number. I offer her my number. That's my approach. That's what I find works for me. But again, guys, the approach that you want to use is what gets you results. It's not important to do things my way or to just follow what I recommend or the advice that I give. You want to do what works best for you. So you can try that approach, see how it works, and, you know, leave a comment. Let me know how that approach has been working for you. Wrapping things up, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned a lot. Be sure to like, comment, and of course subscribe. and catch you guys next week. Peace.